Okay, might get started. Good evening. Welcome everyone who's new, and welcome back everyone who's been here before. My name's Clare, and this is the fourth week of introduction that I'm doing to meditation. I'll start with the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I attain this state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I attain this state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I attain this state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So, I said tonight I was going to talk about karma. Where did I put my glasses on? But first of all, I'll just qualify a couple of things I said last week when we were talking about anger. And I was asked a couple of questions after the teaching when we were having a cup of tea, and that sometimes getting tough and displaying a bit of anger actually does achieve some ends that we might want. And there's nothing wrong with that, but Buddhism would refer to it as wrathfulness rather than anger. And anger is a disturbed state of mind and not rational and not healthy. But it doesn't mean you're a doormat and you don't respond or defend yourself if you can in a situation. So if you can do something about it, and there is a saying, and I forget the exact saying, but it's if you can do something about a problem, then why get upset about it? Just do what you need to do. If you can't do anything about it, then why get upset? Because there's nothing to be done, so you're only going to upset yourself, your own mind. So I think there's a saying I grew up Catholic, there was a similar saying. But God give me the grace to know the difference, is the way the Catholic one ends. So you need to know the difference. It's true, they should throw that in here. Getting tough is without this disturbed, angry mind is quite is okay if it's going to be effective, if it's going to help. So you really need to be wise in the way you respond in situations. But it doesn't mean you just go, oh, you know, I'm not going to get angry, I'll let you get away with it. It's not like that. And I think, you know, in some situations it is best to walk away, to just, if you can, walk away from a situation, if you can see that there's no point in pursuing it. But definitely, yes, you know, I'm a teacher and I work with teenagers, so I'm not airy-fairy about it. You know, if there's something wrong going on, I let them know. And occasionally I will get angry, and that's disturbing to me. I'm always disappointed when I lose it, and I always apologise. The child's a bit confused at that point, but but I am, you know, and I don't think they really understand what I'm saying when I apologise. But it's for me, it's really important to let them know that I shouldn't have responded the way I did, and that I am really sorry, and that we'll sort of talk about it and work out a resolution for the situation. But mostly I'm, I can get really tough, and you kind of have to, because the kids need those boundaries and people need boundaries. So there's no problem with that. As long as you don't have that disturbed feeling. And it's very clear to me when I'm in it, it's different. It's not me just, working with the situation or trying to sort it out. It's me kind of losing it, and I can definitely feel the difference. The other thing was that with all of this, talking about behaviour with attachment and anger and how they don't make us happy, and what are some of the antidotes, and how can we work towards becoming more happy and peaceful without, within this sort of Buddhist philosophy. And that someone said to me, you do meet a lot of people that are actually really good, kind people. They're not Buddhists, and they're not necessarily spiritual. And you do meet people along the way that are really special, and that's fabulous. They're doing the right thing, and I'm sure that they have peaceful. That it's helping them in their lives to behave well, and it's inspiring to other people as well. There are, of course, following the Buddhist idea of, I think the idea of emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, and the interdependence, looking at things that way is uniquely Buddhist as a kind of antidote to the problems that we have. So, when we talk about emptiness and this lack of inherent existence, meaning that nothing exists in the way that we project onto it. There is existence out there, and the situations are real and the people are real, but we're projecting all the time, and everyone will see a situation or a person differently. So we're always projecting, and we hold on to our projections, and that's what Buddhism is saying doesn't exist. It's not, that we're not seeing the real nature of reality, and that's one way of looking. It's because we grasp at things that actually don't exist in the way we're perceiving at them. We're going to be disappointed. Something's going to go wrong because they don't, because it's not what our expectations aren't met, because they're unrealistic. And Buddhism would say they're seriously unrealistic. They're a complete misconception. So that's why we're often disappointed and, unhappy. And we're sort of, why isn't this working out? Why, poor me, sort of thing. So it's just because we're looking at things, our perspective is wrong. That's one way of looking at it. The other is this notion of karma, that yes, things don't exist necessarily in the way that we perceive them, but there is existence out there, what we refer to as conventional, ordinary existence, and that is determined by causes and conditions, and cause and effect. So that's another term for karma. Karma translates as action from Sanskrit, I think. And so it's any actions of body, speech and mind will have a reaction. So we'll do a bit of breathing meditation, and then I'll go more into this subject of karma. We'll just start with some breathing. And perhaps I'll just talk a bit, I'll go into the clarity of the mind. So just keeping the spine upright so that the energy can flow. When you slump, it actually blocks your mind a bit, makes it harder to concentrate and be clear. And just relaxing the shoulders, left hand down, the right hand on top with the thumbs just touching, pointing towards the navel. Head tilted slightly forward, not too far forward, not too high. The eyes almost closed, just letting in a bit of light. And just focus on the breath for a while. Focus on the incoming and outgoing breath. And the breath being non-material, it's clear and colourless. But just focus on it's a mental activity, so just mentally focus on the breath coming in and going out. And just breathe naturally. Letting go of any thoughts. And bringing the mind back to the breath. We'll just turn our mind to the clarity of the consciousness, of your consciousness or mind, which is whatever you're experiencing at the moment, sensations in your body, thoughts, feelings, perceptions of sounds, and so forth. The nature of each of these experiences is clarity, without form or colour, space-like, pure awareness. Focus your attention on this clear, pure nature of the mind. Initially, it might be difficult to find the actual object that is the clarity. So meditate on the mental image of clarity. One way to generate such an image is to visualise space. Imagine lying on a hilltop and staring up at a sky that is completely clear and free of clouds. Concentrate on this vast, unobstructed emptiness. Imagine that it flows down and embraces you and your surroundings. Everything becomes empty like space. Hold this experience. Feel that the nature of your mind is like this clear, empty space. Thoughts and distractions will arise, but don't react to them, neither follow them nor reject them. Remember that they are clear by nature, without substance. Simply watch them come and go, and return to the awareness of the mind's clarity. You don't need to think about anything. There's no need to wonder what the mind is. Simply observe it. Its clear nature, which is like infinite empty space. Just be natural. Meditation is simple and natural, and nothing special. Concentration means holding the mind on an object continuously without forgetting it. The automatic result of concentration is awareness, which is free of concepts. A light does not need to think, I am dispelling darkness, it simply illuminates. Awareness is an inner light that enables us to see things more clearly. It dispels the heaviness of how things appear to us, thus weakening our clinging or aversion to them. So we'll just conclude by dedicating any positive energy created during the meditation to happiness and welfare of everyone. And just bring your mind back to the room. So all of these little tags here I've got in this book are all about karma. There's a whole section in this thick. It's very there's a lot of information about karma, and it's very, very interesting. And just over time, it just starts to kind of make more sense. Or I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time, and somehow reading this afternoon, because I was thinking, oh God, do people really want to hear this? Because it's not all roses. And the more I was reading, I kind of started to relax. I felt it made me feel good to read about it, even though a lot of it is about creating negative karma, but what to do about it and stuff as well. So there is much information. So I'll go through some of the points. And so when we talk about the law of cause and effect, or the law of karma, it's not like Buddha made a law and wrote it in, and we've got it in scripture now. And it's not like someone came along and said, right, we're going to create this law. Buddhism would say that the karma is like gravity, like the law of gravity. It exists. And whether you believe in it or not, it still exists, and it exists for everyone. And one of the things that I was reading was saying that if it wasn't this sort of universal law, then the Buddha wouldn't have talked about it, or people wouldn't be interested in it, because then you can choose to buy in or not, and so it wouldn't sort of really matter. But they're just saying every action has a reaction, and we know that that's scientifically true. So everything we do with our mind will have a reaction. So it's also, you sort of think, oh, well, then I've got no free will because karma is going to sort of take over. But it's more like it gives you more choice, because when you learn about karma, you then get much more conscious about the choices that you're making, because you want good results from your karma and not the negative results. And so it becomes like, you look at the world and it's so many terrible things on so many levels, and you wonder why did something happen. And for me, this was one of the kind of things that when I first came here, that at least it gave me some kind of answer, because we did the meditation on the continuity of the mind, and where did the first moment of mind come at conception, and where does the last moment of mind go when you die. And nothing comes from nothing. So in a way, when you do those meditations and you think about it, there had to be a moment before the first moment, because nothing comes from nothing. Where did the first moment of mind, which is not physical, it's this clarity and awareness, where did that come from? And then at the end of the death process, the body has shut down and becomes energy in and of itself, whether you're buried or cremated or whatever, you smoke and ashes, or buried in the ground and critters feed on you and stuff. And so the physical energy travels on. So we know that nothing becomes nothing either. But the awareness, the consciousness, doesn't become nothing either. Or it just, the logic to me is, it kind of made more sense that then there would be a next moment of mind. It doesn't just become nothing. So that's the theory. Nothing comes from nothing. So that's kind of the idea that the mind will travel on. And then with that, if it's infinite, and they do say it's infinite, you have infinite lifetimes. And you've created infinite karmas. So that is the logic behind it, that a child that's born a prodigy, or, you know, with particular skills and talents, and children that are born into the same family are all completely different. And you wonder where things come from. Sometimes when you look at little children, you think, you know, where the hell did that come from? And sometimes my sister would say, one of her sons went on and became a physio, and he was doing a resident, you know, like a thing at Alfred Hospital. One of his, it's not a residency, it was while he was training, but he was working in the AIDS section, with AIDS in the Alfred Hospital. And I was really impressed. He was very young, and I thought, well, that's lovely. And she said, I don't know where he gets it from. She was like, there's no way she would, you know, it's not her thing. And so she was, these sort of skills and traits and stuff that come. You have a lot of your parents' traits. I think we all become our parents, for better or for worse. But and that's something to watch out for too. We aren't our parents, or we would have their thoughts. We would, you know, they are completely different souls themselves. So we're not actually our parents, but we're socialised. We pick up their habits. That's how you learn. You copy people. That's how children pick up things. And so all the other stuff, all your different skills and talents that you come from, you go through the same education system, you know, and some people are good at this and some are good at that. And so Buddhism would say, well, that's just karma. You've brought those skills from somewhere else. It's a habit in your mind that you've learned. And there are stories of people in the Indian tradition in Tibet. They talk about, there are people that talk about previous lives, that they remember their parents from previous lives and go and visit them. They get people from their previous. But to me, it's very interesting. And the Dalai Lama talks about it, so I'm willing to kind of take it on because His Holiness has talked about it. But in our culture, it's such an alien concept. I think it's hard for us to kind of to take that on. But yeah, so when bad things happen, that you sort of think, you know, I did nothing. Did not provoke the situation. I did nothing. And sometimes you just think, what the hell? You know, where did that come from? Or what did I do to deserve this? Or you have to sort of start thinking, okay, there must have been a cause. For example, this comes up for me all the time. In a meeting, I'll say something and get ignored, and then 5 minutes later someone will say the same thing and everyone goes, great idea. You know, and I think maybe we all know that one, you know, you've sort of been there. They would say that's the result of lying. The Buddhism would say that and I know that lying for me, growing up Catholic, you know, I was very holy when I was a little girl until I was 16. Stop there. But lying has been sort of a big thing with me not to do. It just goes against the grain, and I think that's from my Catholic upbringing. And so I don't think of myself as someone who lies, but the karma of not being heard is, you know, they don't know the exact karmas, only the Buddha knows the exact reasons and karmas, but they would say that that comes from lying. So that anything that happens comes from some previous action, and we can connect the dots in this life to previous actions that you know, might have caused something to happen. When I was a teenager, I shoplifted. So I stopped. You know, I didn't do it for very long, but later on I had this fabulous camera, an SLR, a beautiful camera I was very, very proud of, and someone broke into my flat and stole it. And I was very, very angry. And then when I sort of started learning about this sort of thing, I was so angry. And then I started learning about this sort of thing, and I thought, well, yeah, you know, I stole from the milk bar. But it sort of made sense to me that would happen, that came back on me at some point in my life. So, you know, in little ways you can sort of connect the dots like that, but major issues in your life and things that you just can't fathom, Buddhism would say comes from something in a previous life. And I find that really quite helpful to kind of know that. And I don't have to feel, you know, like I'm not like, oh, I'm so guilty, like 10 lifetimes ago I did something and feel guilt for that. And guilt, the Tibetans don't have a word for guilt. Guilt's seen as a negative state of mind. It's not helpful. They just say it's the law, it's karma. It just is. And you can't, you don't say good or bad, or you don't feel guilty about it. But you start to think, okay, so if I'm getting all these negative results in this life, and by the way, being born human is a really, really, really good karma, no matter where you're born. But for us to be born in this country, I think, is an extra good karma, especially looking at the world today. And so we have extremely good conditions, so we can all be quite, you know, we know that we've done something really good. And it comes from generosity, actually. Wealth comes from generosity. So if you want to keep your good conditions, you be generous to others. And that's, you will get the results of that. I lost my train of thought. I changed in mid-sentence then. What else? So they have lists of things. Karma is definite. Karma increases. If we don't do an action, we'll not get the result. And karma is never lost. So karma increases, which is scary and good, you know, depending on what you've been doing. It's like a seed. You plant a seed, they'll talk about an acorn. You plant an acorn, you get a massive oak tree from that acorn. And they say that what we're doing when any thought or action that we do is imprinted onto our mind stream. That's sometimes described as being like the negative of a photograph, old school and then you print the photo, you get the photo from it. But we're leaving these imprints on our mind, and they grow. So if you've been generous, you've given $1 to someone on the street, the karma of that will come back to you bigger. So if you've yelled at someone, then the karma of that will come back to you bigger. So it's good to sort of keep in mind that it just keeps sort of growing. And it also becomes habit. It's those habits of mind that we do, so that it increases, but it also causes us to do it more. And so we've just got billions and billions of karmas on our mind stream that and they're not always going to ripen either. So when you meet the right causes and conditions, it will ripen. It's like the acorn needs water and it needs sunlight to grow, and it needs nutrients in the soil. So if you've just got an acorn thrown on dusty soil, it's not going to grow. But when it meets the right conditions, it will sprout and grow and produce more seeds of the same. So when we meet the right conditions to think of an example. I don't know, for someone just to be angry at us, it's just you're in a situation. I had a situation with the student and the student's mother and my principal, and the whole thing blew way out of proportion, and I just kept thinking, if only that kid had done what I'd asked in the first place. You know? Like if she'd just done... Nice kid, really nice. But she was just a bit flaky. And if she'd just done the right thing, we wouldn't have had this massive situation on our hands. And it created a huge ongoing situation. Because all those things came together and exploded. And it was just through that sort of, all of that coming together and the timing of it, that I think that makes sense, yeah? It's just, you know, and if you're going to fall in love, you know, people say, I knew someone that she, it was an old friend from here, she, when people used to travel on ships, she passed away a few years ago at the age of 94, I think, so she'd probably be almost 100 now. But she was saying she became a nurse to escape from her family in Ballarat, and she went and lived in London, which was pretty radical. So that must have been in the 1950s, I suppose. And she was loving life in London, and her father came over and said, you know, they wrote to her and said, your sister's getting married, you've got to come back. And she said, no, look, I can't afford it, and it's too far. And so her father actually got on a ship and went over and got her and said, I've got the tickets, you're coming back with me. And she was very upset, and she had to get on this ship. And she said, but her father always liked to do cocktails at 5 o'clock. And so he said to her, I'll meet you up in the cocktail lounge on the ship. And she didn't drink much. Part of her thing, she was very funny, part of her thing was that her parents used to party too much, and that was part of the reason why she wanted to leave. So anyway, she went to, he insisted, you know, you have to come and be sociable on the ship. And so on the first night on the ship, she went up to have drinks or whatever to meet with her dad, and she met her husband that first night. And so, you know, the whole set of circumstances that had to come together for her, how random is that, you know? And they were together forever. So, amazing story. So it's just like all of that had to happen for her, for that to eventuate. So that's causes and conditions for a seed to ripen. And that also the people in our lives, our family and partners or whatever, and children, Buddhism would say we've met them before. We have a karmic connection, possibly because we have unfinished business, but we have a strong connection with these people. So that goes against our sort of Western thinking of you can't choose your parents, because Buddhism would say you did, which is interesting. So we have, strong karmic connections with people. And my sister passed away recently, and I was talking to, we had a big conference here on the weekend, and I was talking to a nun that works in a hospice, and she's done it up in Karuna in Queensland. It's an amazing place. And she's been doing this for years and years, and I was talking to her about my sister, and she said, she just sort of said, you know, either your karma has worn out with her or you've still got unfinished business. And it really struck me. And I was impressed by the whole process. And as you get older, you see death. For younger people, I think it's not so much of a reality, and it's a more. But you know, I'm getting older now, and sort of. Seen a fair bit, and it's becoming familiar. So it's another thing in our society we don't like to talk about and don't look at very much, but I think the more that you are exposed to death, the more familiar it becomes. And then because I've been doing this, I sort of have a perspective on it. And I didn't feel that my sister had died. It wasn't like, oh no, you know, I don't want her to die, but it was more like I had this sense of her travelling on. I didn't, like I think my first real experience of death was my father, and that was a long, long time ago, and that was a gut-wrenching experience. That was just a horrific sort of ending, a black hole of this vacancy in my life. You know, and so that was really, really shocking. And I think it was part of, I had been coming here just a little bit before then, and this helped me get through that. But it hasn't been that, you know, over time it's become a sort of more familiar process. And you're sort of thinking, well, you know, it's going to happen to all of us. And you're going to see it more and more. And so I think that's really interesting, that the more you familiarise yourself with it, and they do say in the texts to meditate on death, and we have death meditations, and you think that sounds sort of scary, but it's actually really helpful, and to familiarise yourself with the process. And I watched my sister go through this process, and because I knew it, I understood what I was looking at. And I think that's part of the fear too, that we don't know what we're looking at when we're dealing with death. So that's really interesting too. But I kind of digress, sorry. But it's all to do with meditation. So, oh yes, my unfinished business with my sister. We pressed each other's buttons for sure, and I talked about it last week. So I don't know if we're finished yet. I'd be happy to meet her again. So, if we don't do an action, we won't experience the result. So you just like, you know, we want things. Why don't I have a good job? Why don't I have lots of money? Why can't I travel all the time like my friends do? And it's just because they created the causes for their wealth and their ability to do things that I can't afford to do. They created the causes. And as much as I, you know, pray to God or whatever, can I have this or that? But it doesn't work that way. You just create the causes. And I feel, like I said, quite privileged and happy in my situation. That I'm not like, oh, why can't I be like them? It doesn't really bother me. That just that you watch some people, they're so... people say, you know, a friend of mine, she says, money just comes to me so easily. And I really, you know, I'm thinking, oh, it doesn't come to me, you know. How do you do that? But she's obviously been very generous at some point. And very generous, because I've seen it happen with her. Everything's just sort of worked out. And I feel like I really struggle to make anything work out. But, you know, get there. But, yeah, so you just sort of think, well, why is it so easy for some and not for others? And why do bad things happen to good people? Is a really big thing. And Buddhism would just say it's just this law, it's just something that happened previously. It's not blame. We can't blame because we don't know what's waiting for us either. You know, all of this. So we just create the causes to experience the result is the answer, to just do good. So karma is never lost. So we carry it with us, and that's sort of a scary thought, to think we really don't know what karmas and what causes and conditions are going to come together to ripen certain karmas. And hopefully we have done good, and we've got lots of good karmas in us as well, and the causes and conditions will ripen for that. But either way, they say it's never lost until it's either burnt itself out or you can do purification practices. And we'll do a meditation shortly that's a form of purification. Any meditation you do and you dedicate the virtue of that meditation, that you dedicate the good energy of that for the benefit of all sentient beings, or you dedicate saying, you know, may I become enlightened so that I can benefit all sentient beings. You can purify karma in that way. And by dedicating, you've sealed that virtue that you've just done as well. And that becomes sealed into your mind stream. It's very important to dedicate. And I think on the second week I forgot to do it. I kind of did it in my mind afterwards for everyone, hopefully. But it's very important to dedicate. It really brings that good energy in, and you go, yeah, I'll hold on to this till I become enlightened, and then I can be of benefit to all others. So I'll just do a little bit from Geshe Loden's book. As I said, karma is a huge section. And I'll just read some of the if I can find it. Okay, there's so much more information. Because you can get so there's one of the effects, one of the things they say is the effect, the result that you will get can be similar to the cause. The experience that you have will be similar to the cause, or the tendency will be similar to the cause. And then you have the environmental effect, like the fact that we're born, or that not that we're born, that we live in Melbourne. We've all created some sort of karma to live in this environment that we share, and that's actually a shared karma as well. The Dalai Lama says that because of when the Chinese invaded Tibet, he's saying that we have this collective karma because they were a kind of tribal and warring people in Tibet So he was saying that this is our collective karma from actually being violent in the past and tribal. So these effects come to fruition after you have experienced the fully ripened effect, and are the opposite of the effects of the corresponding non-virtue. For example, the experience similar to the cause from the virtue of abandoning killing is to have a long life free of sickness. The tendency similar to the cause is to have the natural inclination to preserve life. The experience similar to the cause from the virtue of abandoning stealing is to have abundant wealth. From abandoning sexual misconduct is to have lasting, harmonious relationships, and so on. So they have the 10 non-virtues and the 10 virtues, very similar to the 10 commandments. So you have killing any living being, stealing, sexual misconduct, which is generally, they talk about it, like with the monks, the ordained people, it would be any sexual activity. And by the way, there's 4 schools of Buddhism, the Sakya, Kagyu, Gelugpa and Nyingma, and only the Gelugpa, which is this sect of monks and nuns, are celibate. The others actually do marry and have families and stuff. But it's the Gelugpa group are celibate. So any sexual activity is seen as a negative karma. And for lay people, it's generally, they talk about adultery, stealing someone else's partner, or, so, and that kind of makes sense, is sexual misconduct. Lying, divisive speech, which would be sort of, trying to break up friendships, or, being divisive in your speech, trying to kind of get someone to think badly about something or a group or whatever. Harsh speech would be swearing, yelling, abusing someone. Idle gossip can be all sorts of things, mostly just talking about things that don't matter really and getting really intense about it, or just, we all do it. I'm really good at it, so probably watch out for the results of that. Covetousness, just wanting what you don't have, what others have, is a negativity. Malice, just being nasty. You just meet some people who are nasty, and, having malice. And wrong views. And so wrong views can be just general ignorance, lack of wisdom, getting things wrong, or saying that karma doesn't exist would actually be seen as a wrong view. You sort of, because you're taking yourself away from the right view by saying something like that. Believing in, say, animal sacrifice, they bring that up in the scriptures because that happens a lot in India with some things. So believing in something that is wrong and saying that this is the way is seen as a wrong view and a negativity. And and maybe saying that emptiness doesn't exist, or that nothing exists, or, believing in nihilism, that, therefore you can do whatever you like because there is no cause and effect kind of thing, would be seen as a wrong view. So creating white karma is abandoning all of these things. You abandon killing, and that means insects as well. And it was like what I was saying before, having the instinct to preserve life, to just be careful not to step on ants. Flick a mosquito away, don't kill it. It's just trying to feed. And I've seen something recently, scientists have, and it seems weird to me that they've only just kind of proven this, that insects do have a nervous system, so they feel pain. They do have fear. Every living creature has an instinct to stay alive. So taking the life of an insect is seen as killing as well. Yeah. So you just become much more mindful of what you're doing and thinking about black and white karma, thinking about doing good things so that you'll get good results from it. And it's not easy. It's, it's part of the journey, but just kind of shifting your mind a little bit to think in these more positive ways. And it actually makes you feel good. When you're actually doing the right thing, it makes you feel good. And so then you're more inclined to do it anyway. But we have to be very, you just got to be mindful all the time. It's like that meditation on the clarity of the mind. If you watch your mind, you've got so many, like the lamas say, if someone could read your mind, they'd think you're crazy. If someone could read my mind, they'd think I was completely crazy. So we have a lot of thoughts going on all the time. I like this, I like that, What'd you do that for? It's endless. So we have to watch our mind and know that it is this clear, reflective space. Everything is just reflected in our mind. It's not solid, it's not stuck. It's just passing through the clarity of the mind. So, trying to decide which meditation to do, but I'll do this meditation on love. I don't think we've done this one with me. And any kind of positive act that you do, you can dedicate, and then it becomes an antidote to your negativities. When you see an angry mind coming up, you try and nip it in the bud and think about the antidote, which is love. So we're going to do this meditation on love. So you analyse the situation as well. It's really good to sort of think very carefully about what's going on and analyse it, but watch your mind and watch if it's disturbed, then you say, well, what is it? Is it attachment? Is it anger? Is it jealousy? Is it pride? As soon as you feel these things, be aware of it. And it often will dissipate. When you look for it, that's the other thing to do, is look for it. Okay, where does the anger exist? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? If you look for it, you actually can't find it. And it's a really, really good thing to do. If you've got the space in the moment to actually look, okay, where is this anger? And as you look for it, it dissipates because you can't find it. Because it doesn't actually exist as a solid thing that you can find. It's due to a lot of causes and conditions. There was a situation that was set up, and then this and this and this and this and this happened for it to happen. So it doesn't exist in and of itself. And you can backtrack and go through all the causes and conditions for whatever emotion you're feeling. And then by doing that analysis, you realise that it's just ephemeral. It can just dissipate of its own by being aware, rather than being driven by it. When we're not looking, it's just, we're reacting all the time to all of these emotions and whatever, and then creating more karmas, creating more responses just by reacting to everything. But if you can take a moment to just sort of analyse and look at it and not react, it creates this more space, and that is positive. It actually helps you to feel more comfortable and happy and at peace. So the definition of love in Buddhism is wishing the other to be happy. It's actually wishing happiness for the other in any situation. or wishing all beings to be happy. You can just generate. And they say that as well, that by, what's the word? Immeasurable love. It's called immeasurable love. And it means if you're wishing for all sentient beings to be happy, it's better than just wishing for this one to be happy. The power of that, the karma of that, wishing all beings to be happy, the karma of that is huge. And as I said, the karma increases and it's not lost. So they call it immeasurable love. They've got the 4 immeasurables, but I won't go into them. You'll hear about them somewhere else. Okay, I'll just go straight into it. So just relax again, and again just sitting up straight, keeping the spine straight. Just relax your body and mind and let all thoughts and worries subside. And just mindfully observe your breath. Bringing your mind in, just the object is to focus on the breath. And think that you're doing this meditation for the benefit of yourself and others, to generate more positive, loving energy in your mind and to send it out to others and to the world. Start by imagining all beings, all living beings around you. Your mother is on your left, your father is on your right, and other relatives and friends are around and behind you. Visualise in front of you those you dislike or who have hurt you. And extending in every direction, right to the horizon, are all other beings. Feel that they are there, all in human form, sitting quietly like you. If it's difficult to visualise all beings, think of as many as you can comfortably. Stay relaxed. Don't feel crowded or tense. But imagine that a sense of harmony and peace pervades everyone. Consider how nice it would be for yourself and others if you were able to love all these beings. Contemplate that everyone wants to be happy and to avoid suffering, just as you do. They are all trying to make the best of their lives, even those who are angry and violent. Now generate a feeling of love in your heart. You can do this by thinking of someone you love and letting your natural good feelings for this person arise. You might like to imagine that your love as a warm, bright light, not physical, but pure, positive energy glowing in your heart. Before you can truly love others, you need to love yourself. Loving yourself means accepting yourself as you are, with your present faults and shortcomings, and recognising you have the potential to free yourself from all your problems. So really wish yourself all the happiness and goodness there is. Imagine that the warm energy in your heart expands until it completely fills your body and mind. If you have the habit of being critical, judgmental, and even angry towards yourself, it will take time to change this, so you probably will not suddenly feel love for yourself. But if you say to yourself, "May I be happy. May I have what I need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied," and so forth, then gradually these thoughts and feelings will grow and become genuine. It's enough for now to just think this way and say these words to yourself. Now meditate on love for others. Start with your family and close friends sitting near you. Say in your mind words such as, "May you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free of problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly reach enlightenment." Imagine the warm, luminous energy radiating from your body, touching them and filling their bodies and minds, bringing them the happiness they wish for. Again, don't worry if you don't actually feel the love. It's enough to say these words and think these thoughts. In time, the feeling will come. Think next of some people you are not so close to. They could be people you work with, neighbours, fellow shoppers in the supermarket, fellow drivers on the road. Reflect that they, just like you, want to be happy and deserve to be happy. See if you can feel the wish for them to be happy by thinking, "May you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free of problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly reach enlightenment." Then send the radiant energy of love from your heart to them and imagine that they experience the happiness they wish for. Lastly, turn your attention to the people in front of you, those you have difficulty with. Contemplate that they also need and deserve your love. Wish for them to be free of the confusion, anger, and self-centeredness that drive them to act the way they do. Really want them to find peace of mind and happiness, and finally enlightenment. Think and try to feel sincerely, "May you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free of problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly reach enlightenment." Imagine that the radiant energy of love flows from your heart to them, and that they experience the happiness they wish for. Continue to send your positive, warm feelings out to all other people around you. Love is an unlimited spring of good energy, so you shouldn't worry that it will run out. Completely open your heart and imagine your love flowing to every direction, reaching all beings who are lonely, sick, hungry, confused, oppressed, frustrated, frightened. their suffering disappears and their minds become peaceful, clear, and full of pure happiness. Wish them to have every good experience from the satisfaction of ordinary needs and desires all the way up to enlightenment. We'll conclude the session by thinking that you definitely have the potential to love everyone, even those who annoy or hurt you, and those you don't even know. Generate a strong wish to work on your own anger, impatience, selfishness, and the other problems that prevent you from having such love. Keeping your mind open and trying to overcome ego's prejudiced attitudes will leave much space in your heart for pure, universal love, and thus happiness for yourself and others to develop. So we dedicate the positive energy of your meditation to all beings with the wish that they find happiness and enlightenment. Okay. Just bring your mind back to the room. So, are there any questions about any of this? It's sort of, yes.
I have a question about, in Buddhist theory, what's the difference between having negative thoughts and actually acting on those thoughts?
Yeah, good question. So I'll just say for the camera, what's your name? Paul's asking, what's the difference between having negative thoughts and acting on those thoughts?
Enabling that outcome that you might be imagining.
Yeah.
Someone to incur.
Yeah.
To be more likely to.
Yeah. There is a difference.
In terms of karma as well.
Yeah. It's in here. It's not a complete karma if you don't act on it. And there are levels of karma. So you have to have, I think they say there's the thought, the intention to do the negative action. There has to be the object. And then you have to complete the action, and then you have to be happy about it. You have to be satisfied that you've done that thing. So if all of these things aren't in place, it's not a complete karma. You get some karma. If it's complete, you get the heaviest karma from it. So, and they're saying if, say you intend, one of the examples is you intend to kill someone but you kill someone else, you don't get the full karma because your intention was to kill the other person. So it's kind of like that. I suppose if, and then say with insects, sometimes you can't help it, your car will kill insects. There's no intention there. You didn't intend to do that. And you can also sort of purify. You can sort of say, well, there are mantras, if you know the Buddha's mantra or Chenrezig mantra, or and that's something else, but I've run out of time, and we could have, some people would know some mantras, you would have learnt them along the way. Not so much? No. The first mantra that all little Tibetan children learn is this is the Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig, and his mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah, you know it. And you can find the mantras, but even just saying Om Mani Padme Hum is a purification, is an act of purification. Visualising the Buddhas. There's a whole other set of meditations where you actually visualise these deities and say their mantras. And because they're visual representations of states of mind, when you're meditating on them, you're imprinting these compassionate and loving states of mind into your mind. And saying the mantra is a form of energy as well. So it's, yeah. But if you don't have the mantras, you can just, in your mind, just send some love. And do this thing with the light, where you send out light. And that's a purification. So, yeah, there is a big difference between actually completing the action. But you still, by having the thought, you're still imprinting the negative thoughts into your mind. But it's only in doing the action that you get the complete karma. Anything else? I often get questions afterwards because people are a bit shy to ask. Okay, I've kept you late. There's a cup of tea and cake in the dining room. Thank you. And Dennis will be here next week, and he's an older student, has been doing this for a long time, and he's terrific.